On today's video, I hiked the approximately 3-mile round trip to the White House ruins on the White House Trail in Canyon de Chelly. All that dark you see on that rock is called desert varnish. That's the view from the White House overlook. You can barely see those ruins against the 600-foot wall above it. But that's the canyon I'll be hiking down. This trail has been closed for the last 4 years, and it recently reopened, but it will close again at the end of this month, and it's said that it may reopen next April, and there may be a fee associated with it. It's currently open only 3 days a week, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I decided let's just go do it before it closes again. And there's some directional signs at the start of it. And I like to describe it as kind of hiking down the switchbacks at Havasu. And there's the start.
This is the start of the
Crazy
trail.
little spot. And you go through one of 2 tunnels that you'll go through on your hike down. I mentioned in my last video the Canyon de Chelly National Monument, where this trail is located, is actually on land that's entirely owned by the Navajo National Trust, the Navajo Nation. So they kind of set the standard for when this trail opens and closes. And like I said, currently it's open 3 days a week. And it's planned that it will close again at the end of this month, September. So if you don't do it quickly, you may have to wait till next year, and there may be a fee associated with the hike. There weren't that many people that were doing it on the day I did it. I think I passed 3 people coming up and about 3 or 4 people maybe going down. This is part of the switchbacks. Just beautiful landscape. Interesting hike. This is the only hike you can do in Canyon de Chelly that'll take you down to the bottom of the canyon. To get to the bottom of the canyon any other way requires a Navajo guide. And there are a lot of different tours that'll take you down there. If you don't want to do the hike and you still want to see the ruins, they'll drive you down there. And, as I mentioned in my last video as well, there's over 2,700 archaeological sites. So there's a lot to see as you go down there. And if you take one of the tours, which I haven't done, but I always want to do, I'm just too cheap. So here's your trivia question. I heard this recently. How many states have more than one time zone? Now make it multiple choice. Your choice is A, 1, B, 3, C, 8, or D, 15. So how many states have more than one time zone? Your answers are 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 8, or 15. If you guessed 8, you would be wrong, because the answer is D, 15. Follow-up. Is Arizona one of those states that have 2 time zones? If you answered yes, you would be correct. Most of Arizona does not have daylight savings time. We don't have to set our clocks back or forward. But in the Navajo Nation, they do. And I mentioned this trivia question because when you come here, you can start this hike at 9 a.m. And that's 8 o'clock for the rest of the state. So just beware, it's an hour later. Of course, this also means that part of the year we're the exact same time. We're not an hour later. So if you've got an appointment for a tour at 9 and you show up an hour late, because you thought it was an hour later here. Well, it doesn't matter what your intent was. You'll miss your tour.
This is a trail.
What's the difference between manslaughter and murder? Intent. But intent doesn't matter to the victim. The person's still just as dead. The mosquito might not intend to give you malaria or dengue fever. It's just trying to eat. Intent doesn't matter to the mosquito, but you still got malaria. There's a look back at the canyon wall where I hiked from. What's the saying? The road to hell's paved with good intentions. So sometimes our intentions don't really matter. Once you go through this second tunnel, you're basically at the canyon floor, and it's not that much farther along the canyon floor till you get to the White House ruins. Named so because of the white plaster that they used on the walls. The ancestral Puebloans, sometimes called the Anasazi, built the White House ruins back in 1060 AD. Continued to add on for the next couple hundred years. Here's another question. What song introductions do you like? You know, the instrumental part before the song, before they actually start singing. Some people like the intro to Dreamweaver. Two of my favorites are Al Stewart's You're the Cat and Michael McDonald's Wildfire. I like the intro to those songs. And did you know Wildfire was about a ghost horse? Is a Native American legend. So these are the kind of things that cross my mind as I'm hiking through this beautiful land. It's interesting how many of these old songs from back in my day have been redone. Do you know what song has been remade the most? The Beatles song Yesterday. Been done over 2,000 times by different artists. It's been done by Joan Baez, Frank Sinatra, Liberace, Elvis Presley, In Vogue, Boyz II Men, and even Donald Duck, plus many more. I talked earlier about song introductions. Have you ever heard Nina Simone's song Little Girl Blue, released in 1959? The introduction is basically the song Good King Wenceslas. Easy for me to say. I always find it interesting when an artist incorporates another song into their song, like Beethoven's Fifth. That's kind of interesting. I think Queen even has done that. Did you know that Queen's song Bohemian Rhapsody was #1 twice? First in 1975 when it first came out, and then again in 1991 when Freddie Mercury died. Interesting little tidbits. There's some barbed wire fences to help direct you where you're not supposed to go, so you stay on the path to the White House ruins. And of course, as you get closer to the ruins themselves, you'll run into some of the Native Americans selling their crafts. I always find it interesting. You'll hear as I talk to one selling arrowheads found in the area. Not legal.
These are all my work up to here. This is my niece.
You made them all?
Yeah, I made them all.
Are the stones from around here?
We get it from border towns. Some are around here, just like arrowhead is around here. And then the juniper berries are just on top.
This is the first glimpse of the White House ruins, and it's behind that fence, so you can't walk right up to it. But it's just spectacular. And the desert varnish, that dark color stripes on the rock face, just really adds some contrast. That's a result of iron and manganese oxide. But there's both an upper and lower portion to the ruins. Just a spectacular sight. Famed photographer Ansel Adams visited Canyon de Chelly in 1937, not long after it became a national monument, and declared it one of the most beautiful places on earth. And of course, he took a famous photo of the White House ruins, showing that rock face with the desert varnish and with just a sliver of the sky up above. It is a spectacular place to see. It had to be hard for Ansel Adams to lug around that huge camera that was required to take the photos. To think now I have just a little cell phone that fits in my pocket that'll accomplish the same thing. It's said that the higher ruins were used as a refuge if the canyon was flooding, or they had a ladder to climb up and escape if they were under attack. They'd climb up and then pull the ladder up. I don't know how they knew that stuff, but just an interesting little tidbit. Had to be a hard life for the people living there. I can't imagine. People of today, so many of us overweight, we probably couldn't even get up that ladder to escape our enemies. But if you want to make your life easier, you got to choose your hard. This is for Kelly. Finally found a worm. This thing is huge, too. It seems like whenever I go anywhere, Kelly always asks me, "Did you see any horned worms?" Because he's always looking for them to feed his spiny-tailed iguanas. And those things are pretty gnarly if you have to hike through them, especially when they're dried out. Fortunately, being green, the trail was wide enough I didn't get caught on any of them. But like I said, you've got to choose your hard if you want an easy life. And what I mean by that is marriage may be hard, but divorce is harder. Staying in shape may be hard, but being overweight is harder. It may be hard to take your keys away from your parents and tell them they can't drive, but the consequences of not doing that may be harder to face. So the choices we make in life affect how we live. Some of the choices are difficult or hard, but by choosing them, we actually have an easier, more pleasant life. I say this stuff in part for myself, because sometimes it's hard to get up off the couch and drive and go do a hike like this. It's hard, but in my own mind, hopefully it pays dividends down the road. Because the older you get, you realize it's true. Use it or lose it. If you don't keep walking and hiking, well, pretty soon you won't be able to walk and hike. So hopefully, by getting out there and doing the hard thing, my life's easier down the road in the long run. But I hope you've enjoyed the video of seeing the White House ruins in Canyon de Chelly in northern Arizona. Hope you have a great day, and here's a little petroglyph on the wall behind the White House ruins. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye.